Today we're going to be breaking down the 4-2-3-1 formation, a formation that has gained a ton of popularity in the last 5 years and one that is considered to be the biggest dark horses in the women's game. Let's talk about it. The 4-2-3-1 formation offers a ton of flexibility and compactability that other formations do not necessarily have. It is a setup that has been on the rise in modern football, both at club level and international level. In the current and ongoing season, Paris FC, Atletico Madrid, and Manchester United are 3 clubs that have adopted this formation and have already broken new barriers. That success is influenced by many factors, but how they set up and how they are able to use that 4-2-3-1 formation is something that is key and crucial to everything that they've been able to already accomplish. As we go through setting up the formation and the different roles involved in this, it's important to understand that this is a very, very resource-tasking formation to really play and execute properly. So obviously your goalkeepers will be in place, there's no difference there, but right in front of them are going to be 2 center back pairings, and this pairing is really, really crucial in how teams build up in the back. Obviously beside them you will have fullbacks that will also play a very important role, which we will dive into very, very shortly. Looking at the center back pairing, it's really important to make sure and allow your center backs to possess different roles yet play together and operate as a unit. Often teams who set up in this formation love to build from the back. They would have one of the center backs very skilled in sending very long passes either to the striker or whoever is up far high on the pitch, whilst the other one would play closer to the fullbacks and those right in front of them. Adding on to that, the center back that has the responsibility of connecting shorter passes to the midfield is a player that is also able to push forward and maybe kind of also slightly slide into the midfield when they're able to. Moving on to the fullbacks, who arguably have one of the most important functioning roles to let this unit operate, as they need to have plenty of stamina and pace to be able to go and run backwards and forwards from their position. This is not something that's easy to master, and often one fail, the entire unit actually fails together. Depending on the opposition and what the manager is trying to achieve, it would not be uncommon to see some of these fullbacks actually kind of have an inverted role and play closer into the midfield rather straight with the wingers. This is a lot easier said than done because fullbacks have the responsibility of tracking back on counterattacks, pushing inwards to break that press against them, and also constantly and consistently being involved in attacks and moving the ball forward. Right in front of them, we are going to see the 4-2 pivots that lay right in front of them. Usually players that are paired up together in this pivot position need to have pretty good communication and chemistry, as if one of them is tracking backwards, the other one would need to understand where they operate and how their role changes in that midfield. The players tend to be quite physical and happy to have a challenge, and they have an important role in making sure and ensuring that there's no spaces or pockets to be exposed by the opposition. On top of that, they need to have quick reaction and decision time as that ball is lying in between them. Do they send it back to this line or move it forward to the 3 players ahead of them? Connecting the lines and not losing it when you're being pressed is not an easy job to do at all. Paris FC, for an example, uses those 2 pivots to intercept the most amount of balls they can. In fact, teams have completed the least amount of pass percentage against them, where those passes are mostly being intercepted by the 2 pivots set up right here. Right, as we move the ball on the side, we put the line ahead of them, which would be the 3 players operating. Well, now the 3 added players, there's actually more roles given to the pivots behind them. One of them would be playing between the lines, often box to box, with the other one staying relatively close and deep, connecting with the midfielders ahead of them and the defense line behind them. This makes the role for the fullbacks when they push in deeper and for the wingers when they need to go forward feel a lot more supported. Speaking of those wingers, to be able to have and possess a lineup like this, your wingers need to be very, very skillful. Often what we would call technically gifted, because they need to be very good in one-on-one duels and possession. A huge reason as to why Manchester United have seen the growth that they have seen this season is with implementing this specific formation, Leah Golton and Nikita Paris are able to show a lot of their skills that they haven't previously been able to do. Leah Golton has one of the best numbers in one-on-one duels, and Nikita Paris is physical enough to push on duels, to pull players towards her, opening up a lot of other spaces for her teammates. Which leaps into our second point, is that middle player is then given a lot of freedom and roles to move, find pockets, and even receive the ball themselves. If the opposition is losing duels or the opposition is being pulled into duels, that will however the other team set up will ultimately open pockets. The lone striker will then be lying right ahead there with usually a fair amount of service. They need to be quite physical and need to be able to find a lot of spaces in that box. The Atletico Madrid setup and De Silva that they usually have lurking around in the box is very, very hard to break down. No wonder she's in the current race for the Golden Boot in the Liga F. Her hold-up play is really, really good, and her finishing is some of the best in the league. Like I previously mentioned, that striker also needs to be very good in their ability of receiving long balls from the fullback positions. Often also you would see them tracking back somewhere right here to support the 3 players right behind. This uses up a lot of field IQ, knowing when to drop in deep and help the possession, but also make sure you are available enough for any kind of ball that comes, you are an opportunity to finish and score. This attacking flow has been executed perfectly at Manchester United, as they have some of the most diverse names on the score sheet. Diverse as in you don't usually see a single player scoring every single, rather they have a ton of different players that are able to find that net. I previously touched on pass interception and how teams who set up in this formation are usually very good in disturbing the flow of the other team or the opposition. And to better understand why this is, I want you to take a closer look here, and you can see how the players are set up quite closely to each other, where there is a ton of opportunity to really disturb any kind of passages. So you have between the midfielders, you have between the fullbacks, you have between all the players set up here have a ton of opportunity to just disturb any kind of pass happening between them. Having this many personnel close to each other actually allows the whole squad to move as a unit and overload, or specifically mark overloaded areas in the pitch. On the attack, as fullbacks pull in closer, everything kind of moves in a higher line. You will naturally have one of those center mids or the pivots moving closer to the back. What this means is that usually when they are in possession or when they are going forward, the team is likely to be set up in a 3-3-3-1 formation. This will also allow plenty of opportunities to have diamonds set up. Those diamonds are likely going to include one of the center back pairings, the CDMs, and then obviously being on the highest tip of the diamond is this little guy here, the fullback. And when I previously spoke about versatility, is that you will realize that those diamonds with this formation can often happen in any position on the pitch with a simple movement of 1 or 2 players. Diamonds create an overload of possession for your own team, but also drags a lot of players closer to you. It disturbs the press of the other team, opening a lot of pockets and having or giving yourself the opportunity to break lines. On the back end, or when you're defending, your fullbacks are going to be back in their fullback positions, as we can see right here. The wingers will slightly drop kind of to the back, and your pivots will be low and playing right in front of the center back pairings. Meaning on the back foot, teams usually set up in a 4-4-1-1 formation. This formation, yet kind of defensive, it still allows for a counterattack, and if the team is to send those players that dropped in deep, again, what do you have up here? A diamond. And so counterattacks with these teams are very, very dangerous, because even when they are on the back foot, they reshift or reset up and how they've already set up initially for a counterattack. Now, this is not to say that a formation like this does not have its own faults. In fact, Paris FC in their last 4 wins operated in the 4-2-3-1 formation, but also when they did not operate in the 4-2-3-1 formation, beat a team with a 4-2-3-1 formation. Now, I think this stat is fascinating because not only are they able to win playing that formation, but they're also able to beat that formation when they play otherwise. This shows another level of complexity and another level of understanding of that head coach and the analyst team that work behind the scenes. If the 2 wingers don't drop deep enough, almost staying in a 4-2-3-1 formation or possibly even pulling up into a 4-2-2, teams are likely to overload them. And specifically, if the fullbacks are still kind of higher up on the pitch, there would be a ton of chance to expose them both on the fullback positions right here. If the fullbacks are both caught very high and the wingers haven't tracked back, then it really leaves pretty much the entire line in the back exposed. On top of that, if the pivots are caught in a very flat position, as you can see here, they're almost right beside each other, something that shouldn't happen on the pitch. And instead, they must always set up kind of right across of each other, almost as a line actually. If you see it right here, let me just show you. Setting up as a line like this is a hard line to break. But if they are set up in a line, in a flat line like this, and say those guys are still up high, you can already see the amount of lines that can be broken and exposed by the opposition. Pivots need to always stay diagonal of each other. The fullbacks need to be completely aware and tracking to the back in their defensive positions, and so are the wingers, as they almost don't become wingers, they become into inverted midfielders. Seeing the current success of Paris FC, United, and Atletico Madrid has been really, really exciting, and studying how they've been able to optimize and operate the 4-2-3-1 formation has been one of the most exciting things this season. Going into the January window, it's really important to get the players that have the necessary skills and technique to operate in systems that you like to play. You almost always hear about how will this player fit in the system, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you bring in a winger that's not necessarily very good on one-on-one duels or just is pacey enough, then they're likely not going to thrive in a system like this. They're great players, they're great runners, they have incredible finishing, 10 out of 10, I mean everything you would want on a winger's resume. Going into the January window, it's really important to get the players that have the necessary skills and technique to operate in systems that you like to play. You almost always hear about how will this player fit in the system, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. If you bring in a winger that's not necessarily very good on one-on-one duels or just is pacey enough, then they're likely not going to thrive in a system like this. They're great players, they're great runners, they have incredible finishing, 10 out of 10, I mean everything you would want on a winger's resume, but they don't necessarily track back, they don't usually cut in between, they don't work well with the modern fullbacks, then they're not going to work in the system. It'll be extremely interesting to see how the clubs do in the January window. Paris FC and Atletico Madrid were very, very close into qualifying for the Champions League, but lost in the qualifying rounds. Manchester United, on the other hand, is a team that is trying to clinch a Champions League spot for the first time, seem to be doing really good and kind of on track to achieving that goal. And what seems to be in common between all those three teams is a 4-2-3-1 formation. So we just cracked and broke a code right here. Now, this is obviously a different kind of style of videos to what I usually upload, so if you like it, please let me know. Do you see more content like this? I personally enjoy and love studying different game plans and formations that top head coaches come out with. So if you did enjoy this video, please let me know. Please also share your thoughts and opinions on this formation. I would love to hear what are your thoughts on the 4-2-3-1 formation overall. To stay updated and to continue enjoying the beautiful game, make sure you subscribe to me here on YouTube and follow me on Twitter. I will see you later.